There's the old bearing housing, and you can see see that lip. I don't know if you can see how clear it is, but that lip there, that one there, shouldn't be in there, and that just shows where the bearing's been running inside. The actual bearing's been running inside the housing, so it's been gripped onto the shaft and it's spinning inside the housing, which you shouldn't do that. That housing should grip the outside casing of the bearing, and inside of the bearing will spin on the shaft. That's the new one, and you can see there's no lines. It's lovely, lovely and clean. Top part of it. So yeah, that's the reason why we're changing it. I'll show you the top section. There's the top hat for the bearing, and you can see where it's been rubbing. It's not as worn at the top because obviously all the weight of the shaft is on the bottom. So all the weight and the pressure of the engine and the shaft that lays in through there is pushing down and wears the bottom out rather than the top. But you can see where it's been spinning. This is the outer casing, so it's the outer shell of the bearing, and that sits in there like that, yeah, and it shouldn't spin. That's what I mean by the clamp, when the clamp goes on the top. So let's just do it all the way around. That go. So basically, hang on, basically it sits like that, yeah. So that bearing inside there shouldn't turn, but what had happened, hang on, that there is your greaser hole. So that there is your greaser line, and there holes that the grease will go into to do the bearing. The bearing ain't in there because we're taking it out, but basically that sits in there like that. Now what you need to do is make sure you line that greaser hole with the centre of that, so that when you do grease it, it greases the bearing. Well, what had happened is, I'll show you on the boat, is that they put the bearing off cock basically. So there's the greaser line in the centre, and it was only greasing that, so it wasn't greasing the inside of the bearing, which sort of caused the bearing to seize up and then spin inside that. But yeah, so there is a reason why. I don't think they deliberately lined it up wrong, but there is a reason why we think that the bearing got moved out of position, and that was when they bolted up the flanges on the shaft. But I'll show you that when I'm on the boat. But just that's the old one, that's the new one. Just quickly, you can see where the bearing bit up, and that's how it's been running. It's been running that out for a long time. Bad. Right, here's where the bearings come through. I didn't film taking the bearing off because I did this the other week before I started to do any filming. But yeah, we're in here at the engine room, and that's where it's got to go. All the stub shaft and everything's been removed, but I'll video all that as it goes back in. So you won't see it coming out, but you'll see it going back in. So we've got the bottom of the bearing housing in. The bearing's now on.
Nearly lost my phone.
Bearing's all on, it's all loose, it's not done up. These bolts are here are loose. A bit of a pain trying to get them locator pins in. There's a locator pin, that locator pin goes through the shim and onto the actual, I don't know, the bed of the seating of the bearing. That was a bit of a pain. Took too long really to get that done. But that's all in. I've now got to put this coupling back on. Do that back up. Start putting it all back together, but everything's just heavy. Right, that just watched a trout video. If you've seen it, you'll know what I mean.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
If you don't, you don't.
Yeah, you want to see it.
Oh, fuck you know.
Right, laters. Yeah, you on? Right, coupling's on. Done up tight so we can get it. It's nice and tight. It's flush with that. Well, it's not actually flush. It's gone back. There's a grub screw there that locks that and bolt into place. Yeah, luckily we found that when we was taking it off. So made the job easy. But that's now bolted on. Everything's just so heavy and awkward. So now we've got to get that great big thing over there over in place. It's difficult filming this and doing it at the same time. So
yeah, there's not much space in here.
Not much space, and it's just going to be staged stage thing. Like, if I rigged it up, if I rigged the camera up and you watched us struggle, we might find it really boring. But yeah, and there'll be lots of swearing. Right, let's get this other thing in.
Yep. Oh no. Yep.
Hey, so I made the balls up. I got this far, and then there's a main centre bolt that goes through, holds this onto that flange. I've just found a washer for it, but we wasn't sure. I knew there was a washer on there, but we couldn't find it. So rather than just throwing it away, let's do a proper job. Take this back off, put that washer back on. So once I've got this back out, I will show you where this washer goes. There's the bolt. There's the washer. Goes on there like that. And then you put it in there. Then you put it in there. And do it back up. Right.
Let's try that again, shall we?
Yep. We all make mistakes. I feel like I've been here before. There's my dating lines there. I popped that one. Where's it gone on the shaft there? I'll have to spin this round again to find these pop marks. Can't do it by hand. Always bolt that up. Right, before I bolt this up, the reason this failed is because I was explaining about I can't really see it, the greaser. Where's that light, Kieran? Put a light down. The greaser ring sitting central of that, right? And then the reason why, if you look at them slots there, the distance is like I get my finger in there, yeah? Now, that there is a coupling. Now, there's a gap there. I've got to close that gap, obviously, by doing them bolts up. So what the previous people had done is, that's all loose. They'd obviously nipped that bearing up on the shaft with this, and then done that up, which then caused that bearing to move up and jam on the facing of the thing, which then also put that grease ring out of line, so it didn't get any grease. I might try, I don't know, because it might slide, but I might try and do them bolts up and pull that bearing over, which they did. I might try and see if I can do that, so I'll give it a go in a minute. But that is the reason why, if you get what I'm saying, close that gap up, which means that pulled that bearing up against the housing as far as it would go. So in fact, there was like pressure on the bearing case as well, but it didn't get any grease. So the grease goes down through them holes there, all the way around. That's what closed it up. That's the reason why it failed. I'm filming it. I put a little pen line there. See the pen line? Zoom in a little bit like that, and you'll see the shaft's moving inside the bearing, not the bearing moving inside the housing. Ready? Stop shaking, Kieran, you won't be able to see it.
Shut the fuck up. See you fucking talk.
See it?
Yeah.
See the distance now? That's what didn't happen. Right, bring it back when it's up. I'm just measuring the clearance of the bearing, which we've been told is 0.04. So basically, when you do that nut up there, it's really tight anyway. When you do that nut up there, you can't over tighten the bearing in the casing. So that's near enough where it is, to be fair. Just nip that up, whack that in. These thrust plates, aren't they?
Yeah.
They never had that other bearing. When we took it apart, it never had them. So once again, that was something else that was wrong. The felt washers are now in as well. All good. There's it all bolted up, ready to go, been greased up. So we're going to wait for the tyre to come in and then give it a run up, put it in gear, see if it's all good, But yeah, bit of a pain in the bum, absolute lot of hours going into that. Yeah, so I'll bring you back when it's running. Well, there you go. I think this thing's very cool as well, look. Greaser. Job.